Welcome to the 15th video in this series, making a swarm shooter in 2D with C++ and Raylib. In this video, we're going to set things up so the enemies can actually deliver damage to the player. So to set up the player being damaged by the enemies, the player is going to need some sort of collision. So let's open up the enemy.hpp, because I think we're going to need very similar things from here inside the player. So what I'm going to do is actually get the include circle collider. Then we can go to the player.hpp. At the top here, we can add that. Think about the enemy, and where are we? We have our circle collider here. We can grab that and drop that here. And then finally, also, we can add in the circle collider getter from the enemy and put that inside the player here. Now, when it comes to initializing our collider, we need a radius. Let's go to the gameconfig.hpp. And where are we? Up here, we'll put the collider radius. We'll call this player collider radius. Initially, we can set that, say, to 25.0f. Obviously, we can tune that. And let's go then to the player.cpp. And inside here, then we can set up the collider. So we'll grab hold of the collider.init. And then we're going to init that then with gameconfig. And that's going to be the player collider radius. I need to send in the transform as well. So comma and underscore transform. And as we've done with the other classes that have the colliders, we can also draw this. So down inside the draw here, get hold of a collider and we can do the draw debug. So let's go ahead and run this and see how big or small the collider is and whether we need to adjust it. And F1, where are we? That's not too bad actually. It could maybe do with being a tiny bit smaller actually. Maybe even the enemies are a little bit big. We can tune that later on though, but I'll quit this and just make the player's collider a little bit smaller. So go to the config here. We can make that 22. I'm just going to press F5 and run that again. So let's turn it on. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Okay, Q to close that down, and I'll close down the terminal. Also here, I think I'd like actually the show debug to be true by default when we're running the game, so we've got all of the collisions and things straight away visible. So now let's see if we can detect the hit on the player, which is going to be remarkably similar to what we've already done with the other collision shapes. So let's go into the player.hpp, and we'll add ourselves a new function here, and I'm going to put this actually below the update, and we'll call this hit. Then we can drop into the implementation here, and scrolling up a little bit, where do we put this? I'm going to put this actually below the get position, I think. And what we'll do here is we'll trace log that the player has been hit. So let's go into the main.cpp then and go down to where we're doing our collision detection. Now, I do want to say at this point, we are getting quite big with all the code inside here. We will move all this out into its own functions later on. For now, we'll stick in the mess of code in here though. So below the loop that we have for the bullets here, we'll take this here and then we'll take this line as well. Otherwise, we want to see if we're colliding. So we'll say then that if our player.getCollider is colliding with enemy.getCollider, then we'll invoke our new hit function. So let's run the application then, and what we should see is an endless stream of hits when an enemy walks into us because they'll constantly be colliding every single frame. So let's have a look at you. Do we get it? Yep, we get an endless stream there. I can see it in the console of hit. Good. It stopped and it started again there. Excellent, cool. So I'll do Q to close that down, close down the terminal. So let's now upgrade the player to be able to actually take some hits. So we're going to the game config, and inside here, let's take this const expression. We'll change this for an integer. Value is going to be 3, and we can change this then to max health. Then we'll go to the player.hpp, and down here we can add in some variables, one max health and one called health. Then let's go to the constructor for the player, and inside here we can initialize this with our constant values. Okay, so now down into the player hit here, we can ask the question that if the health we have here is less than or equal to 0, then we'll simply return because we don't want to take any hits or anything like that. We've already been killed. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll decrement our health. And then inside the trace log, we can add a little bit more info, can't we? So we can say then that the health is, and we'll do %d from %d. That will be our health and max health. So if we go and run the application, what we'll find now is we don't have this endless stream of hits anymore, but we will lose our health very, very quickly. So if we watch the enemy here walk towards us, we'll see the health take. In the terminal, it's instantly all disappeared. And the reason for that is quite straightforward. It's because the enemy is being evaluated with the collision with us every single frame, and we're doing nothing to stop this evaluation once we've taken a hit. So to deal with that, what we're going to do is we're going to put a period of sort of invincibility when the player gets hit, which gives the player then some time to escape. That's something you see very commonly in games. For example, Mario, when you get hit by one of the enemies, Mario starts flashing for a couple of seconds, and during that period, he can't take any damage. What we're going to do is we're going to tint the player rather than make the player flash. Before that though, I'd like to go back to the main and actually add the amount of health that we have into our labels down the bottom here so we can see what's going on. So I'm going to copy this here and paste this here and call this HP for hit points. And then we need to get hold of the player's hit points. And as I say that, I think these are private, aren't they? Yeah, so we should add a couple of functions in for this as well. So we'll add an int get health. That will then return the health. And then we'll add a get max health as well. And that will return the max health. So back into the main.cpp then, to grab this here and just to paste it here. And here we want then the player get health and then the player get max health. So let's check this looks all right. Just run this. And yeah, we can see HP 3 of 3 and now 0 of 3. Could put a bit more of a gap in there. I'll just close that down and close down the terminal and put a space. That should be okay. Let's turn our attention now to the invincibility. So the way we're going to do this is not by making the player flash. We'll simply tint the sprite. So let's go to the sprite.hpp. And the draw that we have here, this is where we're using the tint, isn't it? Yeah, it's white by default here. So first of all, what I'm going to do is quickly assign a color inside here and see how the player looks if we say put yellow on here. Basically, we're looking for something just that's slightly visually different to the existing one. So hopefully now it should have a slight yellow tinge. Yep, so it's gone slightly yellow there. The other one has as well, but that's purely because every single sprite will have this now inside the game. So that looks all right, I think. So I'm going to press Q to close that down as well. Let's actually add a tint parameter. So we'll go to the sprite.hpp and we'll add a color tint and we'll give that a default value of white. And then going into the implementation here, we'll have an error up here now because we need to send in our color, which is a tint. And then we can use our tint down inside here. So that will then be white by default. So now we can work on the invincibility. Let's go to the game config again. And we'll add a float into here, and this can be the player invincible time. And I'm going to call that inv time to keep it a little bit shorter, and we'll say that we're going to have, say, 1.5 seconds. Then let's go to the player.hpp, and we'll add an inv timer, and we'll add an inv time. Then we'll add ourselves a public accessor to this as well, so we'll have isInvincible const, and in there we can return whether our invincible timer is greater than 0. Let's go then into the player.cpp, and in the initialization, we can set up our invincible time to be equal to then our game config, and that'll be then our player invincible time. And that'll go down into the hit. So at the moment, we're not taking a hit if our health is less than 0. We also don't want to take a hit if the invincible timer is greater than 0. So if our inv timer is greater than 0, then we're not going to take a hit. Otherwise, if we have been hit, what we want to do effectively is start our invincible timer. So we'll say our invincible timer is equal then to our invincible time. So that'll be the 1.5 seconds that we've just set up. Then we can increment our timer inside the player's update, which I've lost. Where is it? Here it is. So after we do any kind of movement update, we'll first of all check whether the invincible timer is greater than 0. And if it is, then we'll subtract delta. And then finally, we can drop down to the draw, and this is where we can make use of this new parameter that we have in the sprite here. So we'll ask the question, are we invincible? And if we are, then we're going to send in the color yellow. Otherwise, we'll send in the color white. And I think that is all we need inside here. I'm just having a look at this. Okay, here's over the top. I think we can put that on one line. So let's go ahead and run this, and we should tint ourselves very slightly yellow when we actually get hit by the enemy. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we've got 3 from 3 hit points. Let's see what happens here. Do they all disappear? No, we've gone to 2. Excellent, and we're slightly tinted, and now I've just seen we've recovered. The tint isn't really visible enough, actually, is it like this? It's probably a little bit too light with the yellow, I think. But we're definitely going invincible and back there, which is quite nice to see. Going to press Q to close that down and close this down as well. So I think this isn't very good with the yellow here. So let's try a couple of things very quickly, see if we can improve it. The first thing we could do is maybe make it a darker color, maybe red or blue or something, and also give it a little bit of transparency as well. So we can give it some transparency by making a color alpha here, and then giving the color, let's say blue here, and say 0.8F. So I'm going to press F5 to run that. And let's have a look. How does this look? That's quite a bit better, I think. But I have to say, I prefer flashing, much like Mario style when you go invincible. I think it's just much more normal to see. So let's think about how we can best implement flashing without using a timer here. So the most obvious way I can think of is to vary this over time in terms of the application's time running. So there is a function in Raylib called getTime, and that gets us then the amount of seconds that have elapsed since the application start. So what we can do is we can take a sine of this value. So we'll do sine f and that value. And that will then get us a value between -1 and 1. So what we can do then is absolute this. So we'll do FABSF and wrap that in brackets as well. And that should give us some flashing. So we should now have values between 0 and 1 for our transparency. Whether it flashes fast enough, I don't know. We'll soon find out, but we can always speed this up. And there's been a little bit of a fade there because I decided to save you the time of watching me mess around. And it is a little bit slow, but it does flash. So that's the good news. So the get time here, after that, I'm going to do multiplied by 10.0F. That should be more than enough. And actually, I found the blue not as good. So I'm actually going to grab hold of the white here and put the white back, or maybe even actually put green here. The blue was simply too dark, but this should look a little bit better. So I'm going to press F5 to run this. And hopefully now we see, yeah, that's better. You can see it's flashing and we're green here. That's not too bad. If you want to just stay the original colors, of course, what you can do is always put the white in there, but that's actually looking pretty good. Excellent, cool. So I press Q to close that down and close that down. And with that done, we've made another really good step. There's too much code on one line here. So what I'm going to do is make this actually multi-lines. Hopefully we can see what's going on. So I'll put the question mark here, and then we can put this one here. And the conditional, I think, is a bit easier to see, hopefully anyway. But as I said, we've made another really good step there. So we've now got the player taking hits. The player is tracking their hits. We'll be able later on to ask, is the player dead or not? So if their health is 0, and also the player goes invincible when they get hit, so we don't get this silly every single frame being hit thing that we had at the start. And with that done, in the next lesson, what we'll do is we'll make ourselves a game over screen when the player dies, and then have the ability to press a key and restart the game. So thanks very much for watching this video. Comments, questions welcome as always, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.